Evolution have kindly asked me to take a look at one of their machines. This is a Rage 4 185mm multi-purpose cut-off saw. So a quick look at the specifications. It's a 1250 watt motor. It will cut 6mm mild steel plate, 4500 RPM. It weighs about 9 kilograms, and then for cutting capacities it will cut 46mm by 97mm wide stock. If it's actually square stock, it will cut a maximum of 45mm square, 46mm diameter tubing, and it also comes with Evolution's 3-year warranty. If you look on the grey area there between the handle and the blade, there's a little metal hook, and then if you look at the saw there at the back of the handle, there's a chain. So for transporting the machine, if you just coil the cord, pull the chain through the cord, drop down the head, attach the chain, it's really easy to pick up and carry around. So I think that's really handy. It's quite small and compact. There's better light in here, so we'll take a closer look at the saw. So as you can see, there is no physical lock on the head of the saw, and I believe that the reason for that is that you can't physically get your hand in there and operate the saw. So in order to use this chop saw, you've got to actually use a vise, which is a really good safety feature. There is, however, an interlock on the Mortar, so you cannot press a trigger unless you press this button in on the side, and it's actually quite ergonomic the way it's designed. Your thumb naturally goes over that button so that you can operate the saw and start the motor. So I quite like the way that that's designed. This is soft rubber, so it's a very stable grip there. The vise itself, if I slacken it off, is marked from 0 to 45 degrees in increments of 15 degrees. So if you look, the top mark on the vise itself is lined up with this mark here on the base. If I slacken off the clamp, I can move it round until it stops, reclamp it, and that there is a 45 degree mark, which is now in line with the top mark at the base. Now the reason that there are two marks is because you can change the position of the vise. You can move it back this way. If I put the blade down, you can see there where the holding edge of the vise is that we've still got a fair bit of room for cutting. So the beauty of this being placed here though is it's far easier to get the workpiece in and manipulate it than it is if the vise is further back. So I think I'll leave this vise here, but obviously if I need to make a wider cut, then I can move this back, and I'll just demonstrate that now. So use the largest sized Allen key to undo this screw, and please make sure when you do this that the machine's turned off. Then remove this screw, which is on the locking handle of the vise. That just pulls out. This underneath is only hand tight so that it allows the vise to move backwards and forwards. Remove this. There's a little washer in there, so slide that along. Make sure the bottom washer is lined up. Put on the top washer. Screw it all the way down, and then back it off about a quarter of a turn, I reckon. Put the handle back on. Make sure that it clamps. I'm not quite happy with that. I think I need to move it over this way a bit to there. That clamped, so we'll tighten that up. Slacken off the clamp so you can move this where you want it. Slide it over the other hole. The washer and the screw need to go in, and this is quite awkward to get in there actually, but it's going in. So we'll tighten that down. You can see the machined part of the end of the group screw there that will fit neatly inside the hole where the washer is and the bottom of the vise is, and hold it in place so it doesn't move around. So that's that done. Now that we've moved it back, you can see the 0 mark against this indent in the base, and if I move the vise round, you can see now that is a rear indent. So moving the base back though prevents you getting a full 45 degrees on the vise. If I bring that round, you'll see what I'm talking about. See, it's jamming against the back there. So you're probably better keeping this in the forward position, and I'm going to swap that back over now. This back position is obviously if you've got wider pieces to cut that are not too tall. Look at the base of the saw, we can see we've got 4 rubber feet there. Now, Evolution recommend mounting this on a workbench or a stable surface, and to do that you can remove these rubber feet and then just screw it straight down onto something. And as you can see, you can remove the rubber feet with these screws should you wish to mount the machine. Because this saw doesn't have a swivelling head, it's very difficult to set it up to cut exactly 90 degrees. So I think the best thing to do is to make a cut and see what that's like. As you can see, my shop vac nozzle fits in there, but it's a little bit slack. There is inside of here a bolt that stops it from going all the way in, so I reckon that's okay. So that's it clamped in. It's quite a nice strong clamping action. If I look along here at the blade, you can actually see where it's going to cut. So if you draw a line there, you will be able to line it up accurately. And for this cut, we'll have the shock vac on. So next we'll try it at 45 degrees and see what that's like. So that's pushed all the way across, clamped down. So I've put a piece of wood in that's not so wide because this exceeds the capacity at 45 degrees. So we'll slide the wood along and clamp it. So it's showing 89.8 degrees. It doesn't really get much better than that. And 45.3 degrees at 45 degrees. That is really very good as well. So no issues with accuracy on it. So before we start cutting some materials on this chop saw, I just want to show you the way that Evolution recommend cutting various steel sections. Totally different to the way that I've been doing it previously. So I need to alter the way I'm cutting some of these things. So now I'm going to demonstrate this saw cutting various materials. The first thing I'm going to cut is wood with nails. Now Evolution always mention this because anybody that does any sort of project work, especially with reclaimed wood, knows you never can tell when you're going to come across a nail in a piece of wood. But let's get started. I'll put the dust extractor on for this one. And as you can see, it's gone through that. It's not very good wood that I've used for this. So next up we've got some 3mm box section. That's not hot to the touch. We've got a lovely neat edge there to work with. Next up, a piece of 3mm angle. Make sure it's clamped properly. One thing I will mention is you must always make sure you've got some form of eye protection on when you're using these machines. Only slightly warm to the touch, easy to work with, and a nice clean cut. This is steel tubing. The rubber pad on this vise is really very good for gripping stuff. Only very slightly warm to the touch. Again, a nice neat cut there to work with. So next I'm going to cut a piece of rebar. Now I used my miter saw to cut, I think it was 60 cuts in rebar about a month ago, and I used the same blade for all of those cuts. It was already quite well used and it cut with rebar no problem at all. So let's have a look and see what it does with rebar. Just to show you that I'm not bullshitting you about the rebar, I've still got some more cuts to do, so this is going to prove very handy. 20mm threaded bar. This is a small aluminium bar. So seeing as Evolution are saying that this saw is ideal for plumbers and electricians, let's make some cuts for the plumbers out there watching. This is 15mm copper piping. This is a 20mm water pipe. This is a 22mm pipe. ABS piping. Right, so we've catered for the plumbers. Let's cater for the electricians now. This is a piece of uni-strut. Armoured cable. Very easy. So that's it. The Evolution Rage 4. Now I think this is an absolutely smashing saw for the money. It really is a gem. The guard at the top does a great job of protecting the user from any flying debris. I can easily see why Evolution think that this saw would be useful for plumbers and electricians, because it really would. But for someone like me, I do a fair bit of metal work. It's only small stuff, but I do a fair bit of it, and this is absolutely perfect. So instead of using my miter saw for cutting steel, from now on I'm going to be using this chop saw because it's way easier. The clamping action is brilliant, it's very safe to use, it's rock solid on my work surface, and I don't know, it is just a pure joy to use. It's got a really nice feel to it when you're using it. Gives you a really clean cut. You can use it straight after you've cut it, there's no waiting for things to cool down. It's a smashing saw. I hope you found this review useful, and thank you for watching.